2021 was a very interesting year, and so that I went out hiking less, I went out on photography excursions less, but because of youth sports and a new pet in the house, I probably doubled my shot count year over year. So less of the things that I truly enjoy, but more hands-on with the camera may have paid off a bit. I think more likely though is the fact that because I went out less, I ended up frequenting locations that I know and love and have been to over the years more and more. And I chose to only go to those locations when I suspected that the weather would have been wonderful. Whether it was fog or sunlight after a storm or what have you, I think that really enhanced my ability to envision a shot and then come through and take that shot as well. So my top 10 this year, long story short, I think is much better than my top 10 last year, despite less camera use. So very interesting. Before we get started with the top 10, I do want to show a few honorable mentions that really were close to the top 10, but there's some fatal flaws in the image that ended up not having it make the cut. For instance, on this first one, I adore this photo, but for whatever reason, I think it may have been camera shake. The area on the right here just is so soft, and maybe I blew out the highlights a bit on the left, so that one didn't make the cut. Here as well, I truly enjoy this photo. Something just seems off. I love the focus of the roots. Maybe I should have gotten more of the waterfall effect behind here. Either way, good photo, but not in the top 10. This one here, taken from a time lapse. I probably could have found a better version of this. I love the scene itself, but the photo, I don't know, not top 10 worthy. Here is in my local woodland. Again, I love this photo. A little soft all around for me though. The fog effect was great. I was happy to do that, but not top 10 this year. Still a great day. And then this one was in Stokes State Forest. I like the image. Blue hour, bridge, some flowers and great trees. I don't love the fact that the moon here elongated, I'm assuming from some ripples in the water, and was frankly touching the side of this bridge as well. So that one missed the cut. This one probably should be a top 10. I really enjoy this. I've taken a few shots of birds this year. Very few of them were with birds taking off in flight. And I thought this captured it well. From the little bit of water dripping off the talon, you can see the face and eye, and I like the effect that I was behind some trees and shooting through some underbrush. That helped as well. But maybe if it had a fish or something, it could have been top 10. This is just a bird taking off. So those are the shots that didn't make the cut. Now let's take a look at my favorite photos of the year. So my 10th best shot this year was at Tillman Ravine in Stokes State Forest. This is a shot that I really struggled a bit in scouting and trying to find a great vantage point for the Tillman Ravine River. And it ended up being on a day that I kind of anticipated. I knew the clouds were lifting from the storm the day before. I was hoping to get a little bit of light, non-directional light in the area, and it kind of played through. So what I love about this photo is the light-colored mosses that were highlighted by just some of the bright light, again, that non-direct sunlight in the area. On the left, on the right, on the tree trunk here, and just standing over the river itself, it's really a creek, I shouldn't call it a river, over the creek itself, lent a nice vantage point through that center of frame. So I like this image a heck of a lot. I wouldn't call it a portfolio image, but it did make it into my top 10. What I don't like about it, I blew out the highlights here in the water, and some of the, it's really in the foreground, is a little bit messy on the left. Otherwise, I think this is a great scene and was very happy to shoot it. Photo number 2 is also from the Delaware Water Gap area, and this time it is Hackers Falls up in Cliff Park. So this was towards the beginning of 2021 with fresh snow on the ground. Again, I knew the falls would look great. There was a light dusting of snow, and I was just hoping to capture a bit of it on the trees and the ground area surrounding Hackers Falls. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what makes this photo pretty good in my opinion. At other times, Hackers Falls can be a little bit messy to photograph, but that fresh snow really covers up a lot of that mess. So what I like about this photo, the best thing by far to me is this feathery look in the foreground. I really like how the stream of water flows through into the frame. I guess what might make this a little bit better is if I was able to move to the left and have the entire center of frame covered with this water, but that's just not possible there. Way too swift flowing to stand in here. And from the vantage point, this was really the best I could do. But I do wish there was a way to stand in this area during full flow and take a solid shot. What also annoys me just a tad is the brown in the water. So if you're looking at the falls itself, you can see this hint of brown. And maybe there was a way for me to clean this up and I'm just not skilled enough yet. But I don't love that in the waterfall. I love the snow on the right, I love the snow on the bushes, and I love the snow on this rock. So again, this made my top 10, but probably not portfolio worthy. This again is in the Delaware Water Gap. This is the point of gap view from the Pennsylvania side. Now, why I love this photo was probably for the day. It was my favorite vlog video of all time, and it really told a story, which is something I struggle with in my previous vlogs. They kind of just happen and occur, but on this day I lucked out into a story, and it was a story of struggle and being cold that ultimately ended up being a very good day for photography, really highlighted by this shot in and of itself. So what I love about this shot, the mood is wonderful. There's fog, there is snow on the ground, I love the rock striations. It's just an imposing view of the Delaware Water Gap. It's Mount Tammany specifically, which is just a place that I adore, and anyone from the area would know this spot immediately, and really, hopefully, would bring a smile to the face. What I don't love about the photo is the foreground. These trees just are kind of there. I wish they weren't there at all, but they are, and you can't really shoot around them. So I did my best to not have them be a highlight. There is a, I think it's 209 now, there is a road in front of these trees, so I couldn't capture the base of them, or the road would have been in frame. So I really did my best to hide the road and not focus on the trees and have this wonderful mountain, Kittatinny Ridge, come to mind. So yes, this is, again, I would say not quite portfolio ready, but it is my 8th favorite photo of the year. Okay, my 7th favorite photo of the year is basically outside my door. It's right on Lake Hopatcong, and it is in the Prospect Point Preserve area of Jefferson. Wow, I love this photo, and I'm going to call it, it shouldn't be portfolio worthy, but I love it so much. I'm gonna say it's part of my portfolio. So what I love about this, the sky is immaculate. This is the type of sky I like. Anyone can do wonders with a really, vibrant sunset that is crazy red, crazy pink, but it's the subtlety of this that really, I don't know, makes it work for me. It's not overly crazy, but still is visually nice to look at. Along with the smooth water here, these two elements really help. So this was a 10-second exposure, which is why the branches are indeed a little soft. There was a tiny breeze, but I just like the scene so much. What would make it better? Probably a little bit less of exposure. No, let's say, a little bit less wind to keep the 10 seconds, because I do want that water blared. And in the far background, like, do we really need to see these houses? Probably not. It would have been better if this were a scene that was truly in the wilderness. But this is life in Jefferson and Lake Hopatcong. I mean, you are surrounded by intense beauty, but with a shoreline full of residential houses. So it's just part of life. So maybe that's why I like it as well. It's just my hometown and an area that I frequent and love for, you know, reasons you can see on the screen. My sixth favorite photo is again from the Delaware Water Gap, though this could have been shot anywhere. It was on a frozen morning in the low 20s, where there was hoarfrost on the ground and in the vegetation. And I found this one leaf that really had some striking and visible frost on it that was in stark contrast to that deep green and that purplish reddish color on the leaf as well. And what made it interesting to me is, you know, this was the only color in the field was on this type of leaf. So I took my time, I framed it up the way I wanted to. You had the sun peeking through on the left on this wonderful yellow highlight, and the brine you can see here. I don't think that's the right word, but it's just wonderful to see that frost really form on the side of the leaf in contrast with the straight on view. So I love this photo. It took me a while to compose it. Even when I got back into post, to be honest, I had to crop it a bit because I wasn't completely satisfied. But I would say this is portfolio worthy for me, and something that I really love. My fifth best shot, I admit I love because it's my fifth best shot, but it frustrates the heck out of me as well. So let me explain it to you. This was in High Point State Park, and it was on a foggy fall morning in a swamp with completely still air. It was wonderful, and to be on scene, like you're choking with anticipation, it was so beautiful. And why I struggle with this shot a bit is because I don't think I captured the scene as well as I could have, but I know in the same time I did a good job with it, and frankly the comments on social media all say how wonderful the picture is. So there's something about it that is magical, but I'm frustrated because I think it could be even better. So next year I'll go back and try to shoot this again. But here, what makes this great is it's just a fall foliage scene that, you know, with the pond water, the swamp water, the leaves on top of that, these trees coming out of the water, the branch on the right. If you look closely, you can even see, some spider webs here and here. There's a lot of detail to get lost in with this shot, which is, I think, what makes it great. But it could be better. For instance, you know, is there a better way to show the reflection here of these two trees? You know, maybe it is cropping in closer so there's no reflection, or maybe it's zooming a bit back out so there is more reflection. Either way, this kind of makes it a little unbalanced to me, which is one of the frustrating points here. But overall, portfolio worthy, great shot in my opinion, and a great day. Like, I felt so excited to be on scene there. And again, it was one of these situations where, hey, I knew it was foggy. Hey, I knew there's something called the Cedar Swamp in High Point State Park, and I had to get there, and it really panned out. Okay, my fourth best shot, I don't know if this shot is any good, and I definitely lucked into it. So this is at the Balsam Lake Fire Tower in the Catskills, and it was one of those days where I knew I wasn't there for photography. I was there for hiking, but brought the camera anyway. Got to the top of the fire tower, and the scene was okay. Fired off a few snaps just for the heck of it, the whole time wishing that it wasn't foggy and I had a clear view of the surrounding mountains, because I have been to a fire tower in the Catskills in the past, and the scenes are wonderful. It just didn't pan out that day. Too much fog in the area, too much low-lying clouds, no sun at all, so everything was dull and drab. got back home, loaded it up in the Darktable, and just started messing around with the sliders a bit, and tried black and white. Then I tried black and white, where I was really high contrast, and suddenly this photo came to life and I lucked into it. It's an unwitting attempt at fine art photography, and I think it works. The really black silhouette of these pine trees are of course what makes it. It's wonderful, but you also have the multi-layer mountains in the background, followed by some contrasty clouds with this ribbon of low-lying fog that was really close to the camera, and I was able to tease out a little bit of a shadow that provides that separation that really makes this photo work. So definitely I say portfolio worthy, one of my favorite shots on the year, even though I lucked into it blindly. At least I knew enough in post that it could have been good, that I started toying around with different options. Anyway, Catskills are wonderful. Speaking of the Catskills, here is my third favorite shot of the year. This is called Big Pond, and it's right in the southern Catskills. And what makes this great, of course, is the reflection. This is a reflection to die for. It's a pond set in a valley with the very, elongated ridge in the background, with some shoreline that is really immaculate. And the air was so still that day that this reflection is just about perfect. The only thing that would be better, frankly, is if there was a rowboat right about here with a person fishing in it, and that would have put this photo over the top. In fact, there was someone in a boat there, but they were next to the shoreline and there wasn't enough separation, so that didn't work. So here is the shot without a boat in it. Still wonderful. I love it. I could stare at this one all day. Again, portfolio worthy. No really flaws with this one, other than a foreground element like a boat would have been wonderful. And perhaps I'm a little bit cropped here. A little bit more breathing room for these trees on the left could have made it better. But otherwise, I'm very satisfied with this shot. It's one of my favorite shots of all time. Now we're at photo number 2, also in the Delaware Water Gap. This one is in the Walpack area. And again, I've been to this area more than once. I knew it was one of those morning, gritty, foggy, cold days. And I just wanted to see what this field looks like. I have photographed this field in the past. That mountain ridge there that you see in the background is the ridge. It's Kittatinny Ridge again, but it's very close to where Buttermilk Falls is, so I'm here all the time. I'm very familiar with it, and there's just something about this scene that works for me. You have this, I'll call it a farmer trail. It's not really farmland, but it is a double track, tire mark trail in the middle of this field with some hints of green, the ridgeline in the back, the tree on the left. If you look closely, you can even see the 2 tire tracks going up the hill in the middle of the field as well. It was a great morning, and the sky was really interesting even though it was cloudy, and that makes a difference. Sometimes those gray low-level clouds you can't do anything with, but if there is, and this was the case, a storm front moving in or out, I think moving out, and it was very breezy, so those clouds were racing by, and when they race by they often have more definition. So in this case, I snapped the shot and I'm really satisfied with it. And then my favorite shot on the year, again in the Delaware Water Gap. This is at McDade Trail near Milford. This shot just works for me. In the middle of a field with this very moody fog and the ridge in the back. And again, there's some frost on both sides of the field here. The track seemingly leading into, I want to say nowhere. In truth, they go to the left and to the right. But this scene just works for me. It's towards the end of fall. There are hints of fall foliage here. This tree line in the back adds some depth to the field. I think it's my favorite shot of the year. And it happened to be the one and only time I've also made the feature page on Flickr. So that was exciting. So everything about this worked extremely well for me. There is some toning adjustment. I used the split tone feature to just add that little bit of purple. It's not quite natural, I would say, but it just how I felt in that moment. It was kind of a surreal morning where everywhere you looked there was this hoarfrost and fog with that ridgeline behind. And in fact, I had been pointing my camera the other way for most of the time, looking for small things and looking out towards the Delaware River. And it wasn't until I just accidentally turned around and was like, whoa, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So I quickly set up a shot and it worked. So that was my best photo of the year. And again, a lot of these bests may not be for the technical composition. Part of it is also how I just felt in the moment and whether or not I had to work for a shot or thought about a shot or lucked into a shot. All that matters. So there you have it, my 10 best shots on the year. Overall, I am extremely satisfied with my landscape photography this year. There's definitely room for improvement by far, mainly with the composition work. But for the first time in, I think I'll call it my career, even though I'm a fake amateur, first time in my career, I was able to pre-visualize what I wanted and make it come through the glass as well. So that was very rewarding to me this year and something I definitely want to focus on in 2022. Thanks for watching. I hope your 2021 was full of adventure and love and happiness, and I hope this early part of 2022 gets behind us as quick as we can and we can move on to a post-pandemic world. I've had enough. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Get out and explore.